Observer design pattern. It's a design pattern that is designed by keeping the needs of an observer in mind. So, what is an observer in programming? Any object which has a dependency for the data or for some kind of a state change on another object is an observer of that object. And the object which has that data or that state change info can be called a subject or a publisher or whatever you want. Well, we can go into all that publisher, subscriber, and subject, observer things later. Let's begin by understanding that we generally design our system by partitioning it into a set of cooperating classes. And then there comes a need to maintain a consistency between those related classes. We certainly don't want to achieve that consistency by making our classes tightly coupled or tightly dependent on each other. Because the more tightly coupled your objects are, the less reusable your system is. So there was always a search for a design that allow our objects to remain loosely coupled yet in sync with each other. An observer design pattern solve that purpose. Observer is a behavioral design pattern because we observe the behavior of an object. It specifies communication between objects, observable and observers. You must have something that you can call as observable, and then those who observe that observable are the observers. An observable is an object which notifies observers about the changes in its state. So, in short, we generally summarize the observer pattern as a publisher plus subscribers is equal to observer pattern because we have publisher and then we have subscribers. And there is a one to many dependency between the publisher and the subscribers. And that's the intent of this design pattern is define a one to many dependency between objects so that when one object changes state, all its dependents are notified and updated automatically. So when publisher changes something, all its subscriber should get notified and updated automatically. A live implementation of Observer is the YouTube subscription model as well. Every single YouTube channel is the publisher of the content, and its subscriber are its users or its observers. But if you have noticed, not every single user of the channel gets the notification about the new videos or updates. Only those who subscribe for that by pressing the bell icon gets a notification for the new videos. And it's not just about the YouTube. If you have ever seen a subscriber service, or if you have subscribed to anything in life, be it a newspaper, magazine, digital content, email subscription, payment reminders, mailing list, whatever, then you already know how this pattern works. But how we implement that pattern behind the scene, to understand that, we need to explore the observer pattern. So, as we say, observer pattern defines one to many relationship between a set of objects. When the state of one object changes, all its dependents are notified. As simple as that. Now, the object which has something to share with its subscribers is also called as subject. And those objects which are supposed to receive an update or notification about the state change of subject are called the observers. And the subject and observers define one to many relationship. One subject, many observer. Another example could be our Excel spreadsheet and the bar chart provided there. We know that both can depict the same data in a different manner. And at once, it seems that they both are working together as well. Whatever change you make into your cells in the spreadsheet get reflected into your bar chart or into your pie chart or whatever is there. So if you are using both together, then they both work in sync with each other. Any kind of change you made into spreadsheet will reflect into your bar chart, and any kind of changes you make into your bar chart will reflect back into your spreadsheet. But at the same time, we can reuse them independently as per the choice. So that's the kind of behavior we want to build into our system, where two objects, when used together, display consistency in data, and then at the same time, they are not dependent on each other. They can work independently as well. So, here in this example of a spreadsheet, the data on which we are working can be called the subject, and the different depiction of that data, be it in the form of a spreadsheet or in the form of bar chart or pie chart or whatever that is, they are the observers. Any kind of change into the subject, the data will instantly reflect in all the observers. And we can say that this is observer design pattern in action. The observer pattern describes how to establish these relationships. The key objects in this pattern are the subject and observers. A subject may have any number of dependent observers. All observers are notified whenever the subject undergoes a change in its state. In response, each observer will query the subject to synchronize its state with the subject's state. Now you can ask where we can use it. What is the applicability of such a design pattern? So, as given in the classic design patterns book, we can use the observer design pattern in any of the following situations. When an abstraction has two aspects, one dependent on the other, encapsulating these aspects in separate objects lets you vary and reuse them independently. When a change to one object requires changing others and you don't know how many objects needs to be changed, then observer pattern is a good practice to ensure that. And when an object should be able to notify other objects without making assumptions about who these objects are. In other words, you don't want these objects tightly coupled. In all those scenarios, observer design pattern can be applied. Now, how the class diagram of this pattern look like. So this is the class diagram of the observer pattern. Here we have the subject. Subject knows its observers. Any number of observer object may observe a subject. Subject will not get affected by that. It's an interface for attaching and detaching the observer objects. Then we have the observer, which defines an updating interface for objects that should be notified of changes in a subject. And then we can have the concrete implementation of the subject and the observer. The concrete subject will store the state of interest to concrete observer objects and will send a notification to its observers when its state changes. And the concrete observer object will maintain a reference to the concrete subject, will store the state that should stay consistent with the subjects. Now, another important aspect of observer pattern is the loose coupling. One thing is quite clear in this class diagram that observer and the subject are not tightly coupled. There's a loose coupling in action. So we'll explore about this loose coupling aspect in the next part.